Jeffrey says that he needs the fap to be able to fall asleep. Is that true, Jeffrey, or are you just rationalizing your weakness? Oh, it's too late. He's already on Snapchat harassing all the girls, hoping for a crumb of digital pussy. Adonis sees young Jeffrey in a puddle of his own mess. He doesn't judge. He helps him clean up and he sits him down. Jeffrey looks so embarrassed and sad and says that he just can't help himself. Of course, Adonis understands the pain of young men, and he vows to help them overthrow the evil porn companies who have caused this weakness. Nofap tip number 1, learn. When you learn about the benefits of not watching porn and even of not busting nuts at all, you're going to take this journey so much more seriously. Guys who are around 20 years old, it's recommended by a lot of these spiritual teachers that you should ejaculate no more than just 1 time a week. And you can do it even less than that to experience more of the benefits as well. So my first tip to you is to go and learn these things. Go and Google and YouTube spiritual or health benefits of non-ejaculation, how to have sex without ejaculating. Go and learn these things because it'll add like this new fresh understanding to this journey that you're on. Nofap tip number 2, see the good in having full balls. So this is something that I just happened to understand when I was like 17, 18 years old and I just got on Nofap for the first time. I realized that I actually liked being horny. I liked having like full balls. Like I know it sounds silly, but it's true. Like I really liked having that feeling. But I realized that there was like some weird association in my mind that when I would feel horny, instantly my mind would think, okay, well then you have to go jack off. But I realized like you can break that association and realize that it actually feels awesome to be a young guy who's feeling horny, who's feeling like sexually alive. And you can just leave it just like that. You don't have to then go and expel your seed. So I started to create a mindset, which is what I want to pass on to you. And it's such a powerful phrase. You're going to remember this, okay? Full balls, empty stomach. That's what makes a man strong. Say it with me. Full balls, empty stomach. That's what makes a man strong. When you've got full balls because you've been retaining, you've not just been having sex with every girl, you've not just been watching porn and jacking off, and then you also have an empty stomach. You haven't been eating all the garbage food that most guys have. You have literally the 2 biggest drives. You have full balls, so you're ready to fight and you're also ready to go pursue a woman, but you've got an empty stomach, so you're ready to hunt. You've got exactly what a man needs to go and take over the world. Think about this mindset, and then the next time where you're feeling really horny, understand that you can actually just enjoy that experience. You don't have to feel miserable like, oh, I feel horny, so I've got to jack off. No. You feel horny, enjoy it. Think to yourself like, oh yeah, it's kind of nice. Like imagine your dick gets hard. You've been fantasizing about a girl. Let's say you're in your room, whatever, right? Just keep it there and almost like enjoy the fact that you've got an erection. You're a healthy young man. Just because your dick got hard doesn't mean that you need to start jacking it off. Little fucking monkey. Nofap tip number 3, realize that fapping doesn't even feel good anyway. Because you know what happens, right? So we get into this mindset, we gotta fap. Then you start fapping and it feels kind of like this weird pleasure overload. But then what happens after you nut? You get the post-nut clarity, you feel awful, you feel guilty, you get this massive dip of energy, and you just like realize the pleasure was fake. Pleasure that turns into pain is fake pleasure. So what we need to do, we need to almost become enlightened to realize there are things that feel kind of pleasurable for us, but that then turn to so much pain afterwards that logically it just doesn't even make sense to pursue that pleasure. And that we can say that's like a fake pleasure. That's like something that comes from like the devil or like from the bad side of humanity. If you jack off and then you feel worse for hours afterwards, the pleasure was fake to begin with. And really think about this. You literally feel better when you don't fap, right? You feel more pleasure day to day when you don't fap. You feel alive. You feel horny when like a girl makes eye contact with you, which is completely natural. You feel more pleasure when you don't jack off. So you need to destroy this idea in your mind right now that jacking off, watching porn is pleasurable, because it's not. That's just like brainwashing and psyoping from these evil porn companies that literally, think about this, these companies monetize your addiction. They want it so that you, a healthy, normal young man, whenever you get an erection or whenever you get horny, you've started to associate that with consuming their product. Think about how much of a hook these porn companies have on you, where when you get horny, which could be 10 times a day, you link that towards like using their platform, whether it's like Instagram, OnlyFans, Pornhub, whatever. Think about that for a second. Like, that is not like a natural human man reaction, which is when you get horny that you've got to jack off. No. When you get horny, the idea is either you're supposed to have sex with your wife and to have children, or if you don't have a woman, to basically go work hard to get yourself to the point where you do have a woman. There was never some biological natural part of the equation where when you get horny, you'll just like start jacking off like a monkey. That was what these porn companies did, and we realize now that the pleasure gained from that is lower than you literally just sitting there and are just feeling the horniness anyway. So we need to destroy this idea from our mind that porn and jacking off is even a good pleasurable thing in any sense, that it gives us any sense of relief, because you literally feel less relieved afterwards. You feel more agitated. Think about like, okay, you feel agitated for a few minutes when you're really, really horny, right? But you feel agitated and shameful and sad and gross for hours, even days, after you've just bust a nut to some random girl that you don't even like. It's time as young men that we snip the association that we have with our natural impulse of getting horny and then using some platform. Because think about it, that's exactly what it is, isn't it? These apps on your phone have controlled you so much that when you get an urge, you go onto that app or that website. This is literally just commercialism. It's not about like your human need to ejaculate. It's that you've become a product of these apps. And so Nofap tip number 4 is to remove triggers. Think about which apps cause this trigger in you and have created this association between being horny and needing to fap. So I recommend you do this right now. If you go onto Instagram and go remove any girl you're following who is like some of these like thirst trap kind of girls, do the same thing on TikTok, do the same thing on Snapchat. Even if these are degenerate girls in your school or in your work or whatever, remove them. Even if, but you know, it's going to be a little bit awkward. Who gives a fuck? It's more awkward that you're like being a monkey who's jacking off all the time. That's more awkward, right? The moment you've gained respect for yourself isn't going to be awkward. She's going to think, oh yeah, he's too good for this digital thirst trap. Fine. Who cares about the perception of some random girl who's trying to get guys to like randomly spew their seed? So who cares if it's going to cause some problem in your social life because this random degen girl from high school is now doing OnlyFans and you don't follow her anymore? Who gives a fuck? Unfollow all these girls and then do this on Instagram. You can go on the explore page and any girl that you see there who's like, you know, softcore porn, who's being provocative, you can click on the picture and click on not interested. And once you've done that about 100 times, you'll stop being shown girls. So the first 5 times you do it, if you like refresh the page, pull it down from the top, you'll see more girls. So you've got to click on all of them and click on not interested. Then refresh the page and you'll see slightly less. Click on not interested. Then again. Once you've done about 100, that's when you'll literally see no girls at all. And maybe once a day or once every few days, you'll see one random thirst trap on your explore page. You got to do the same thing. Not interested. Tell the algorithm, I'm not watching this shit, and if you keep showing me it, I'll just leave the fucking app. Control the algorithm instead of letting it control you. Nofap tip number 5, change your routine. So you probably fap at about the same time every single day. So you probably fap in a routine. You probably do it in some time when you're alone and there's a feeling of like lethargy, boredom. Maybe it's as soon as you wake up in the mornings, or maybe it's just before you're going to bed. If you change that routine of behavior that you do, you'll make it that you might automatically bypass that moment where you're fairly like susceptible to falling into this addiction. So for example, let's say it's in the morning and your normal routine is you wake up, you grab your phone, you scroll a little bit, then you end up seeing some like a trigger material and you end up jacking off. What could you do to change that routine? I'm not even going to give you the answer. You probably can think of it yourself. What could you just do? Just let your own brain and heart tell you. What could you do to change that routine so that you don't grab your phone first thing in the morning and start jacking off? How about for nighttime? Let's say you finished with the day, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. You've like brushed your teeth, wherever, you're getting into bed, and then that's usually when a lot of guys jack off. I'm just going to ask you the same question. What could you do to avoid that moment? Let your own heart guide you to the answer there, because it's going to tell you something so simple. It'll give you like a little flash of like, oh yeah, I could probably just not have my phone in my bedroom, and then if it's not here and I'm not scrolling, then I probably would forget to fap anyway. Nofap tip number 6, create a new identity. See yourself in a completely different way. Instead of just trying to quit fapping, what if you start to see yourself as the new tier version of you, and you start to believe that guys like you simply don't fap, And you start to also believe that fapping is for those like lower tier guys, which you are no longer a part of. One of the fastest improvements I had was when I started to associate bad habits. This is going to sound really mean, but it's what I did and it really worked for me. I started to associate these habits like fapping with guys who were like lesser than me. And you can argue, oh, no one's lesser than anyone, whatever, but it was like within an instant you can tell if a guy's like low status or high status. You can just tell, right? And so I started to think, no, look, I'm a better man than that. That's for those like Jeffries, that's for those losers, that's what they do. I'm not like a loser, I'm not like them at all. That's like that group of people over there. I would just imagine some guy from high school who I knew was like a Jeffrey, and I just kind of associate, yep, he's the kind of guy who faps. I'm way past that now. That actually helped me to make way faster progress. So if you want to do this and create a new identity, first think of like the version of you that you are now, like this new updated version of you, and then think of the sort of level of people who do a certain bad habit like fapping, and think to yourself, oh yeah, I'm not in that level, so I simply just don't do that thing anymore. Nofap tip number 7, help other guys who are struggling. So imagine this, imagine you're on like a self-improvement forum and there's a kid who's wrote a post that he keeps relapsing and he needs help. Imagine if you comment on that post and he replies back and he thanks you for it, and you have this like wholesome interaction where you've just like helped this kid with this massive problem. You can just imagine that day that you helped that kid, you would be less likely to fap, can't you? Because you've stepped into that teacher mode. You've taught someone else how to overcome this problem. And also the strategies that you've taught someone else are now at the front of your mind, so that when you do get the next trigger yourself, you automatically use those strategies because they're at the front of your mind and you've just helped someone else. So of course you're not going to like fall into the same pattern as like the student who you've just helped, right? Well, you can do that right now. I literally made a self-improvement forum page. It's the top link in the description. It's for free. And guys are in there asking for advice on things like this. And so if you've made any progress, let's say you've hit day 3 of Nofap before, maybe day 5, you've made so much more progress than the guys who are still stuck on day 0. And so they're in there asking for advice, and it could be you who helps them to get to day 3 or day 4 or day 5 or even longer. And when you help others, you learn and you develop when you teach other people. So after this video finishes, scroll down to the description, click on the top link, and you can apply to join my self-improvement forum page. It's for free. Nofap tip number 8, keep busy. Now, the real goal with getting onto Nofap was not to just obsess over Nofap through the day. It was so that we stop this bad habit, so that we have more time, more attention, more bandwidth, so that we can focus on what we really want from life. What we really wanted from life was to not fap. It was to make a family. It was to have like a purposeful online business that gives us freedom. It was to have male friends that were growing along. It was to get really hard into fitness and become athletes. Those were the real goals. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you actually just focus on those big goals, you'll naturally fap less because you'll be more busy. And also these goals will develop you, make you respect yourself, delay gratification, give you a source of dopamine and pleasure. So just go hard and like lock in on the goals that you want anyway. And when you're busy, especially with a deadline that you've set yourself, you're probably not going to fap, right? Imagine this. You're probably not going to have a fapathon, like multiple sessions of fapping on a day that you have a deadline due, right? Because you're just so busy, you've got to focus on that thing first, right? The work that, you know, you've got this essay or this homework or this exam tomorrow. You're probably not going to like jack off like 5 times on that day, but you can give yourself deadlines for your own goals anyway. You pick a goal, and if you don't have a goal, you just think of, okay, well, what does my heart kind of wish that I accomplish in the next 6 months or 12 months? And you try not to be influenced by like what other people would think is cool, but just ask yourself, what do I think would be cool for me? Then you think, okay, oh yeah, that thing, like I'd love to be able to bench press 100 kilograms because it would feel so cool for me to load up 2 plates on each side. Or I'd love to be able to like run 100 kilometers like David Goggins or whatever it is. You set the goal, and then you start to think, okay, what's a big significant task that will help you to achieve that goal that you could set a deadline on today? So the goal could be, for example, I want to get to 1,000 subscribers. And the big task could be, okay, I'm going to make a really awesome video and I'm going to have it uploaded onto my channel before 8 p.m. tonight. Suddenly, when you come home from school or work and you've got this free time, like after the gym, you've got this deadline and you're like, oh, well, I'd rather go and accomplish that. I'd rather not like sit around and start like edging or anything, because I've got like this deadline that means a lot to me. And I also know I'm just going to feel better afterwards, because the pleasure from this kind of hard work achieving your goal is real pleasure. It feels kind of hard right now, but once it's it's done, you literally feel better forever. Whereas the pleasure we know from fapping actually is a fake pleasure because it only kind of feels good right now, weirdly, and then it just makes us feel worse. And so you start thinking, well, I'm going to prioritize the work that's actually going to help my life. And so if you stay busy, you'll accomplish more, and naturally you'll just have less time to fap. So think to yourself, what is a goal that you could set yourself if you haven't got a clear one already? And then what's like a hard task that you could try and do every single day? You add it to your schedule so that you're more busy and you've got less time to sit around touching your little pee-pee. Nofap tip number 9, the last tip, introspectiveness. Just think about how much of your life as a man will be dictated by just you wanting to ejaculate. Really think about that. Like, have you ever thought decades of your life might be motivated just by your desire to ejaculate? Can you imagine what life you'd be living if you followed that impulse compared to if you were so introspective and you ask yourself the question, is this like the horny version of me who's, you know, deciding where to live or what car to buy or what gym to sign up to? Or is it the real version of me? Because if you're making decisions based on your lust, you're probably going to start living a really inauthentic lifestyle. So this is a weird tip because it's so vague, but it's so big. I know it's not as practical as, you know, telling you, okay, delete this app or whatever, but just think this. Try to always stay introspective. And when you're making decisions in life, whether it's the girl that you want to make your girlfriend or the place you eventually want to move to, and just ask yourself the question, what part of me is desiring this? If you can be honest to yourself, maybe in a journal, you might realize you're so heavily motivated by just fapping, by degeneracy, by sex and ejaculation, that your entire life could sway that way. And you might start to just make all these decisions that actually take you away from your real dream life, the kind of life which isn't motivated just by ejaculation, but by cultivating like peace and family and God into your life. And I really wish you get a realization like that, because it can just change your entire perspective, like the entire plan that you had. That's all the 9 tips that I have for you today. The top link in the description is that self-improvement forum page, which you can come in and help guys, and you can also ask for advice. You can click and watch this playlist right here. Do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. Mwah!